Why do we do big things? Or more importantly, how do we do big things? But let's start with the why. So, what compels someone to want to change the way things are done, to want to influence the way people think or behave, or to take on the all-consuming effort of starting a new venture? The why might be this: because they have an entrepreneurial mindset and they can't help themselves. They see something that can be better for humans or better for the planet, and they can't help themselves. They see something that can be different because it can be more fair or more efficient or more sustainable. And whether they know it or not, in thinking that they want to take action, they are thinking like an entrepreneur. Some people might push back on the suggestion that they are or want to be an entrepreneur because they associate it with the idea that you have to have an amazing and completely novel concept, that you have to be able to raise millions of dollars in capital for investment, that you need to guarantee exponential growth, maybe because they only associated entrepreneurship with capitalism, or because they've convinced themselves that their idea has to birth a unicorn. But what if we all agreed with Professor Howard Stevenson, considered the godfather of entrepreneurial studies at Harvard Business School, that entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity beyond resources controlled? The pursuit of opportunity beyond resources controlled. I don't hear capitalism in that, because resources encompass far more than money, and opportunities can be pursued without regard for personal financial gain. Just ask anyone who's ever founded a nonprofit. Opportunities can be pursued ethically. Just ask any one of the thousands of founders of benefit or B corporations in the world. Opportunities can be pursued because you want to do something purposeful, something impactful, and something that serves the greater good. Because you yourself want to be a good human. Let's reframe our thinking here today and interpret an entrepreneurial mindset as a way in which good humans do big things. Now, people might have different interpretations of what an entrepreneurial mindset is, so I want to share my version with you. If you have an entrepreneurial mindset, first and foremost, you are curious. You walk through the world with your eyes wide open, and you think, why do we do these things? And why are we doing them this way? And in doing that, you recognize opportunities for change. You think in statements like, there must be a better way. And you think in questions like, why doesn't a better solution already exist? And in that idea of recognizing opportunity and asking these questions of yourself, you realize that you need to do some research. You need to gather some data so you can be credible in the space that you want to influence or impact. And in developing competency and doing that research, the first step, of course, is understanding the facts of the matter. How did we get to this place? But the next part, which is often more challenging, is understanding the people. If you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you are committed to empathetic listening because you want to know the who. Who cares? Who could benefit? Who does this serve, or who could be harmed? But in order to do a good job on the who, you need to be capable of shifting your perspective. Your perspective is entirely wrapped up in your identities. I'm a woman, a mother, a wife, a founder, a chemical engineer. I'm an American. I'm proudly Generation X. Any number of these attributes could be left to dominate the types of solutions I propose or the types of people that my ideas would benefit. But good humans do better than that, right? Because they interrogate the situation for all the potential identities of the who. They interrogate the consequences of action or inaction from multiple perspectives. And to this point, you could have done all of these things. And you could have written a paper about it and submitted it for a grade in a class. You could have defended a thesis about your idea. You could have written a fantastic paper about it and submitted it to a journal for publication. You could be a totally well-intentioned, good person and do all of this research and propose a completely economically viable, technically feasible, culturally and geographically appropriate solution. And it could end there, with just you and whoever else reads your manuscript continuing to admire the problem. And the problem with that approach is that all of that good work that you did, all of that research that you did, all of that opportunity recognition that you did would be trapped in this bubble of knowing without doing. That would be an academic exercise, but that would not be very entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurs are not the admirers of problems. Entrepreneurs feel compelled to act. Humans are interesting creatures in the way that we resist change. Conventions make us comfortable. We like conventions because they are predictable and reliable, even when a convention no longer makes any sense objectively, like an internal combustion engine. We continue to use this technology because we are used to it. Change is the unknown, so change can often be perceived as a threat, and a person who pushes for change can be perceived as a threat or at least as an antagonist. If you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you are prepared to challenge convention. In doing so, you need to be ready to go toe-to-toe with the way that things have always been done, because you are interested in driving change. And if you do that well, if you have been able to overcome the inertia despite the obstacles, all the obstacles, there is a great chance that you will create value for the benefit of society. But creating value for today isn't enough. It just isn't. You need to always be thinking forward. You need to be looking ahead to what's next, and you need to be ready to future-proof. Future-proofing is an interesting problem because it requires you to know things that haven't yet occurred, right? It requires you to know something you cannot know, which is paradoxical. So really, what you can do if you're future-proofing is that you can be ready to fail fast, or you can be a step ahead if obsolescence is truly inevitable, which means right from the start, you need to know your success criteria, but also your kill criteria. And if you've done all of this well to this point, and you've put a good solution out into the world, you should be ready to measure your impact. Because, as I mentioned earlier, a good human doing a big thing wants to know that whatever that they have produced for public consumption is truly a net benefit to society. Well, there's some good news. There's some good news here, and I mean right here in this room. All evidence points to the idea that Gen Z cares a lot about these concepts. Gen Z wants to lead purposeful lives of meaning and impact. You care a lot about social justice, racial equality, environmental sustainability, and all of these pieces, and you do not want to sit back and wait for other people to fix the world's problems. And these are big problems we're talking about, right? We're talking about climate change. We're talking about wealth inequality. We're talking about global terrorism and geopolitical instability. And now all of these new challenges that are introduced by artificial intelligence. We're looking at propaganda and deepfakes and chatbots and trolls and hallucinations, and it's almost too much to wrap your head around. But if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you can frame these challenges as opportunities to challenge convention. And there's real hope. Gen Z looks like they're going to be one of the most entrepreneurial cohorts in history. Gen Z is about right now 20% of Americans. You have some incredible assets. You are digital natives. You value collaboration, good communication among teammates, and you're highly pragmatic. Being digital natives that are excellent at using sort of digital tools, you are ready to monetize your talents and your passions and put things out into the world. Being collaborative and pragmatic and valuing communication, you are ready to design the future that you want to inhabit. So that's some good news. Another interesting thing that supports the idea that Gen Z may be one of the most entrepreneurial generations ever is that over 90% of Gen Zers have taken at least one step toward pursuing their own venture. And that may be as simple as buying a domain name. That may be as simple as looking at the way other people have set up their ventures. It may be as simple as taking an entrepreneurship course. But over 90% have taken at least one step. And then the next great piece of evidence is that over 80% see pursuing their own venture as a viable career path, rather than taking that traditional 9-to-5 job. More than 3/4 want to be their own boss, because Gen Z is not looking for jobs, they're looking for roles that are meaningful for them, where they feel like they can have an impact. And here is the reason we need to think about work differently and not having those traditional 9-to-5 jobs. It is suggested that by 2030, approximately 30% of task-based jobs will be taken over by AI. Our technology is racing forward. Some would say our humanity is barely keeping up. But again, that's why I have hope and confidence in Gen Z. 9 out of 10 of you want to pursue purpose-driven work and feel that that is crucial for your well-being and career satisfaction. And you want to create something new that positively contributes to the world. So, even with everything that's going on right now, with all of the economic instability and uncertainty, there's still 2/3 of Gen Z that thinks they can pursue something in their own venture for their career. And more than 50% remain optimistic that that's something they can do right away. So, let's keep this in mind. Gen Z is tech savvy. They know how to use digital tools. They are innovative. They have values-driven goals. The next thing that I want to leave you with is, because of the shared hope that Gen Z is ready to do something by being good humans, putting good things out into the world, I also want to connect to the message of how this is actually a part of your liberal arts education. So I hope you'll go with me on a short journey here. Gen Z does not want to be the admirers of problems. You want to take all the tools that you have, everything that is because of the age that you are and because of what you've learned in the environment here, and you want to put big things into the world. I believe that your generation will change the way we do things. You are going to think differently about how we power our lives. I do believe that you're going to double down on renewable energy. You're going to come up with more efficient and equitable ways of distribution of goods, services, and information. And to me, that all sounds very entrepreneurial. I think that you will see how the pursuit of opportunities beyond resources you control is absolutely a thing that could be in your future. But because of where we are, given this place, Bucknell University, what I want to do is I want to connect this hope of Gen Z being good humans that do big things in the world and having an entrepreneurial mindset to a liberal arts education. So let's think about what we value in the liberal arts. Well, we value creativity. We value empathy. We value lifelong learning, right? When the only constant is change, you have to be a lifelong learner capable of adapting to new scenarios. We value communication, collaboration, and credibility, knowing how to do the research, knowing how to gather the data. You can find all of this language in any liberal arts institution's mission statement or strategic plan. So nothing is new here. But I want to really highlight the inherent connection between the pieces of the entrepreneurial mindset and the liberal arts education that absolutely are intrinsically linked. And so I talked a little bit about the why, because you care. I talked a little bit about the how, the steps of the entrepreneurial mindset. The only thing left is the who. I would say that the who is you. Thank you.